Good evening. Welcome to the August 21st update on Hurricane Henri. As always, these thoughts are mine alone, and in making decisions regarding Henri, please refer to the National Hurricane Center, your local weather office, and your local authorities for all the latest information pertaining to your area. Well, here we are with Henri. It is now a hurricane and has become a little better organized today. You can tell a few things here. One, we have an emerging eye here trying to form and clear a little bit. It's not very well organized right now because the convection around this eye is not very deep. You can see only a little bit of bubbling convection trying to wrap around the eye. This is still a lower end hurricane here. You can tell a couple of things that the system has not been able to really develop the structure very well until recently here. You can see some convection bubbling around this ring now, and this will continue to occur as it moves off to the north. You can kind of see the edge of the Gulf Stream here outlined by this edge of the cumulus field here as these cumulus clouds begin to dissipate as the system or as they advance northward and hit this cooler pool of water. So this is running out of time to really strengthen a whole lot, but it is strengthening. And so we are likely dealing with a little bit stronger of a hurricane than we were earlier this morning when recon went in there and found a hurricane with winds of 75 miles per hour. Unfortunately, recon had to turn around as they were getting into the structure of the system. They had to turn around and head back, and we're not going to get recon for another 3 to 4 hours. And so our first pass into the system will likely be while it is peaking here as it is continuing to intensify and structurally improve. We do have some banding wrapping around here, and this is kind of contributing to the centralization of the storm's overall convective field here. You can see this very large mass of convection that has kind of lost its intensity over the past few hours, indicating that the system is trying to become more CDO dominant. Central dense overcast means the ball of thunderstorms that is around the circulation and not, this very large area that was what we were kind of seeing for the past couple of days. Remember, we had this, and then on the northern end of that was the lower level circulation here. That has not been the case for the past couple of hours here. And if we look at microwave imagery here, you can see this is the lower level microwave imagery indicating a lower level eye here. And then now we have the mid-level eye feature as well, stacked on top of this lower level eye feature, which is indicative of a stacked circulation that is going to begin organizing and continue strengthening here, and that is really what's going on here. We may have an open eye feature, but we do have an eye feature here in a stacked circulation, and that's really what matters with the system at this point. We're not expecting something that's going to be insanely strong here, not something that, is a Category 3 hurricane like we saw with Grace yesterday, but we are looking at a strengthening hurricane for the next 12 to 18 hours as this comes up to the north. If we look at the water vapor loop, you can see all the steering features are now in place. We have Henri here, very large system with the eye here, you can see. And then you have our negatively tilted trough axis that is now building and pushing the system off to the north a little bit. Then you have your mid-level ridge here on the north side of this, and kind of see flow generally. This is kind of the edge of the ridge here, generally coming out of the north here. And so we're going to see a funnel of the system pretty much going straight off to the north here, heading towards the New England coast here. It is no longer expected to see this rather violent hook off to the west here. We're more honed in here on somewhere a Long Island landfall or in between Rhode Island and Long Island, and maybe an outside shot at it coming into Massachusetts here. But we are honed in now on this region being the area where the worst of the storm will come in. And so what that means is that the system will have a little bit, it'll be in between the two extreme solutions that we were talking about yesterday, where we had, if it comes in really quickly here, then it won't have a lot of time to weaken. And if it comes in really slowly here, then it'll have more time to weaken. So we're likely going to be dealing with a hurricane landfall here along this coast, this stretch of coast here. And unfortunately, that means that lots of power outages will be occurring, and heavy storm surge, heavy wind and surf, and unfortunately pretty significant impacts for this region. It's not very common that you guys get a hurricane here. So if you look at the 5-day cone, well, now it is a 3-day cone. You can see we still have, per the National Hurricane Center, still have tropical storm forecast to be the landfalling intensity here, but we still do have hurricane warnings due to the fact that this could be a hurricane at landfall. And regardless of the exact intensity of the system, hurricane conditions will be ongoing as the system comes ashore here. And you can see the wind field is beginning to expand. According to this graphic, you can see this very large area of tropical storm force winds, and now we have our hurricane force winds accompanying that. And if we translate that to the peak surge graphic here, you can see this very large area. These are all storm surge warned areas now. You can see this large area here that is now expected to get 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. This is pretty significant storm surge for this region, given how flat this region is, and especially 3 to 5 feet of storm surge into the Long Island Sound is pretty bad. So if you're on the coast here and you are in a surge zone and people are telling you to leave, you do need to leave. This is very serious, and you definitely need to be taking all of your, if you're planning on staying, please do take all of your valuables off of your first floor, and be sure to stay safe and get out if the water does in fact come into your area. Please do be safe and heed the warnings of your local officials. They've been through this, definitely. If we're going to talk about other hazards here, we're going to be talking obviously about the flash flooding, as the system is expected to come and slow down as it turns off to the east, as it finally gets caught up in the jet stream, as the trough does come in and leave. And so we're going to be, while this is happening, you can see a lot of rain is going to fall over this region. And it really depends on where exactly the system is, because if you're on the west side of the system, because all this convection, if we go back to, well, let's look at the water vapor loop here. You can see all this convection on the east side of the system. That will gradually rotate around the system and come onto the west side of the system. And you can already see a lot of rain here falling on the west side of the system, and that's due to the convergence that is associated with the storm coming in contact with this trough and coming in contact with land. And so there's going to be a lot of rain on the western side of the system here. And so if you're on that western side, if you look at the rainfall totals, they will be enhanced here. So this is, now that we have a landfall point kind of here honed in here, anywhere in this region will likely be seeing rainfall totals in excess of 4 to 6 inches, and in locally higher amounts. And it really depends on if a band sets up over you, and that is the case here with Henri. If you have a band that sits over an area for a while, and say you get, instead of 6 inches, 8 inches of rain. So if you are in this area, please refer to the National Weather Service for flash flood warnings. Have a way to get warnings, because these are not just coastal effects that will be occurring here. You can see that this swath of 4+ inches of rain is pretty widespread here, and you do need to be paying attention to that as well. That is also very crucial, and especially with the enhanced winds, that the ground can be softened up and trees can fall in these winds due to the fact that the ground is softened up by the rain. And just be very wary of all the hazards here that will be occurring with the system as it comes northward. If we look at the hurricane winds now, this is the probability of winds as they come ashore, and probability of your area experiencing these winds. You can see 5% chance here, outlined by the dark green here, and some higher chances along the coast here. It really depends on how strong the storm remains, and it is looking likely that the storm will be teetering between hurricane intensity and tropical storm intensity, but that doesn't really matter. That's only a 5-mile-per-hour difference here. You're going to be getting pretty bad conditions regardless here, and gusts will likely be hurricane force regardless of the exact wind speed of the system. So if you're along the coast here, you do need to be preparing for power outages, extensive power outages, maybe some damage here as this comes ashore, and you really do need to be staying safe here and heed the warnings of your local National Weather Service office and your local officials here. We're starting to get into crunch time now with the system, so please stay safe. We're going to look at the system one last time. Please stay safe as the system comes northward, and this is likely the last video on Hurricane Henri. This is a pretty dangerous situation evolving here. You don't really get a whole lot of hurricanes in this region, and it is a pretty vulnerable place for hurricanes to strike. So, if you are in this region, please do be taking this very seriously. This is not a very common occurrence here. And that's all I got for now. Please stay safe, and thanks for watching.